Here a question that might make you a little uncomfortable. If you fell right now in your own kitchen, could you get back up on your own? No furniture to grab, no one to call, just you, the floor, and your own body. Take a second and actually picture it. For some of you, that answer came instantly and confidently. For others, there was a pause. That pause is worth paying attention to because it's telling you something that no blood test, no scan, and no doctor's checkup can tell you quite as honestly. I've spent more than 20 years working directly with patients before, during, and after our major surgery. Part of my job, before I ever pick up a scalpel, is to figure out how much stress a person's body can actually absorb. Not how old they are on paper, but how resilient they are underneath the surface. And here's the strange thing I've seen over and over again. Two people can walk into the same preoperative room, same age, same diagnosis, same surgery ahead of them, and yet they are living in completely different bodies. One hops up onto the table, cracks a joke with the nursing staff, and barely needs help adjusting the gown. The other needs two people just to help them shift from the wheelchair to the bed. Same birth certificate. Completely different biological reality. That difference isn't random luck, and it isn't just genetics either. Over 2 decades of watching this play out, certain patterns keep repeating. The people who sail through their 60s, 70s, and even 80s with their independence intact tend to share a small set of physical abilities. Not extraordinary abilities, not gym rat, marathon running abilities, just quiet, unglamorous, everyday competencies that most people stop thinking about until they've already started to lose them. So today, I want to walk you through 7 of these markers. Every single one of them can be checked right now in your living room without any special equipment. And more importantly, every single one of them can be improved, no matter what your current age or condition is. This isn't a lecture about decline. It's a practical, honest look at what actually keeps people out of wheelchairs, out of nursing homes, and in charge of their own lives well into their 80s and beyond. Let's start with the one that doctors quietly consider one of the most powerful predictors we have. The first marker is your walking speed, and I want you to take that seriously because in medical research, walking speed has earned a nickname, the 6th vital sign. Right alongside blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, and breathing rate, how fast you comfortably walk has become one of the most studied, most reliable indicators of how well your entire body is functioning as a system. Here's why it carries so much weight. Walking looks simple, but it is one of the most complex things the human body does. To walk smoothly, your heart has to pump enough oxygenated blood to your legs. Your lungs have to keep up with the oxygen demand. Your muscles have to fire in a coordinated sequence. Our joints have to absorb impact without pain. Your inner ear and your eyes have to keep you balanced. And your brain has to orchestrate all of it in real time without you ever consciously thinking about it. When walking speed starts to slow down, it's rarely because of one single problem. It's usually the earliest visible sign that one of these interconnected systems is starting to strain, often long before any lab result or scan would flag it. Multiple long-term studies following older adults have found a striking pattern. People who naturally walk faster tend to live measurably longer. And this holds true even after researchers control for other health conditions like heart disease or diabetes. As a rough benchmark, a comfortable walking pace of around 3 feet per second, that's outcomes. When someone's pace drops noticeably below that, especially if it's here's the part that should genuinely encourage you, walking speed isn't fixed. As trainable at almost any age, this isn't about forcing yourself to power walk everywhere. It's about occasionally building in short bursts where you intentionally pick up your pace, maybe for 30 seconds to a minute, then return to your normal speed. Over weeks and months, this simple interval approach has been shown to measurably improve overall walking speed, which in turn reflects improvements happening throughout your cardiovascular and muscular systems. It's a small habit with an outsized return. It also helps to understand what you're actually measuring when you time yourself. Find a straight stretch, maybe the length of your hallway or a section of sidewalk. Mark out about 20 feet and time how long it takes to walk it at your normal, comfortable pace. Not rushing, not strolling. Do the math, and you'll have a rough sense of your feet per second speed. Do this once a month at the same time of day, under the same conditions, and you'll start to see a real trend line, not just a single snapshot. That trend line matters more than any individual measurement because it tells you whether you're holding steady, improving, or drifting in a direction worth addressing early while it's still easy to correct. Now let's shift from your legs to your hands because the next marker surprises almost everyone the first time they hear about it. It's grip strength. On the surface, squeezing something hard seems like a strange thing to measure. What does hand strength have to do with your heart, your brain, or how long you'll live? But grip strength turns out to be one of the simplest, cheapest, and most revealing measurements in all of medicine. Here's the underlying logic. Your grip doesn't operate in isolation. The strength in your hand is closely tied to the strength of the much larger muscle groups throughout your body, your shoulders, your back, your legs. In other words, grip strength acts as a stand-in, measurement for your overall muscular reserve, sometimes called physiological reserve. It's essentially a proxy for how much physical capacity your body has banked away for when you need it most, during an illness, an injury, a surgery, or simply the demands of daily life. Research has repeatedly linked weaker grip strength to a higher risk of falls, slower recovery after illness or surgery, and even a shorter overall lifespan. Think about what that implies. A tool as simple as a hand dynamometer, something you squeeze for a few seconds, can reveal information about your future health trajectory that costs almost nothing to gather. That's remarkable when you consider how much modern medicine relies on expensive imaging and lab work. The encouraging news, again, is that this is fixable. Grip strength responds extremely well to resistance training, and you don't need a gym membership to build it. Carrying groceries in both hands instead of using a cart. Working with an inexpensive resistance band a few times a week. Doing basics, strength exercises like farmer's carries, where you simply walk while holding something moderately heavy in each hand. Even twice. Weekly strength sessions have been shown to meaningfully improve grip strength at almost any age, including well into your 70s and 80s. It's one of the highest return, lowest effort investments you can make in your long-term resilience. You can even get a rough sense of where you stand right now without any special equipment. Try squeezing a rolled up towel, a tennis ball, or a partner's hand as hard as you comfortably can for a few seconds. It's not a lab-grade measurement, but pay attention to whether that squeeze feels confident and strong or noticeably weaker than it used to. If you have access to an actual hand dynamometer, even better, many physical therapy clinics and some pharmacies will let you test on one. The specific number matters less than the trend. What you're really watching for is whether this number holds steady or climbs over the months you spend working on it, because that trend is a direct window into whether your broader muscular reserve is being protected or quietly eroding. From your hands, let's move to something a little more internal, but arguably even more powerful, your cardiopulmonary fitness. This is essentially a measurement of how efficiently your heart and lungs work together to deliver oxygen to the muscles that are actually doing the work, whether that's climbing stairs, carrying luggage, or chasing after a grandchild. In research settings, this gets measured as VO2 max, a number representing the maximum rate at which your body can take in and use oxygen. If you happen to wear a fitness tracker or an Apple Watch, you may have already seen an estimated version of this number sitting quietly in your health app. Here's what makes VO2 max so remarkable. Across large population studies, it has consistently emerged as one of the single strongest predictors of longevity that researchers have ever identified. In some analyses, it outperforms smoking status and even diabetes as a predictor of how long someone will live. Think about that for a moment. Your body's capacity to move oxygen efficiently may say more about your future than whether you smoke or whether you have a deeper reserve to draw from when facing any kind of physical stress, an infection, a surgery, a fall, or simply the cumulative wear of daily life. The bigger that reserve, the more shock a body can absorb without collapsing. And once again, here's the hopeful part. Cardiopulmonary fitness is among the most trainable qualities in the entire human body at virtually any age. Brisk walking, cycling, swimming, dancing, anything that consistently elevates your heart rate for a sustained period can measurably improve it, even if you're starting in your 60s, 70s, or beyond. Studies on older ado? You don't need a laboratory to get a rough read on where you stand either. Notice how you feel doing ordinary things that used to be effortless. Can you carry on a full conversation while walking briskly? Or does talking become difficult within a minute or two? Can you climb a flight of stairs and recover your breath within a minute of reaching the tops? Or does it take considerably longer? These everyday moments are, in a sense, informal fitness tests. You're already running dozens of times a week without realizing it. The goal isn't to chase a perfect number on a wearable device. It's to notice the direction things are moving, and to nudge that direction upward through consistent, moderate aerobic effort a few times each week, even if each session only lasts 20 or 30 minutes. Quietly ties into one of the deepest anxieties people carry about aging, the fear of falling. And that fear is not irrational. A serious fall in your 70s or 80s is one of the single leading causes of a sudden permanent loss of independence, sometimes far more disruptive than a chronic illness. Balance is a genuinely complex whole-body system. It depends on your inner ear correctly, feet detecting subtle shifts in pressure, and your muscles reacting instantly to keep you upright. All of it coordinated by your brain in real time, thousands of times a minute, without you ever noticing the effort. As people age, each of these individual systems can quietly decline, and often there's no dramatic warning sign. Balance is frequently the very first place these small declines become noticeable, long before anything shows up as an official diagnosis. This is exactly why balance training deserves far more attention than it typically gets. Something as unglamorous as standing on one leg for 30 seconds, practicing Tai Si high, or doing basic stability drills can have an outsized impact on your long-term independence. If you want a simple way to track your own balance over time, try this. Stand on one leg, eyes open, near a countertop or sturdy chair in case you need to catch yourself and time how long you can comfortably hold it. Try it again in a month after some practice. That single number, tracked consistently, can become a meaningful personal indicator of how well this system is holding up and whether your efforts to improve it are actually working. What makes balance particularly worth your attention is how quietly it erodes. Nobody wakes up one morning and suddenly can't balance. It happens in small, almost invisible increments. A slightly wider stance while standing at the sink, a slightly firmer grip on the stair railing, a slight hesitation before stepping off a curb. None of these individually feel like a problem, but together they're often the earliest whisper of a system starting to lose ground. The reassuring flip side is that balance responds remarkably well to practice, often faster than people expect. Something as simple as standing on one leg while brushing your teeth each morning, alternating legs each time, can produce noticeable improvement within just a few weeks, precisely because you're giving your inner ear, your eyes, and your muscles repeated low-risk practice at working together. Next, let's talk about a test that sounds almost too simple to matter, but has some of the most striking research behind it. Your ability to get up off the floor without using your hands, your arms, or any furniture for support. In aging research, this is often called the sitting rising test, and it's a legitimate, scientifically validated tool used in long-term studies of physical function. Why does something so basic carry so much weight? Because getting up off the floor unassisted requires an enormous combination of abilities working together simultaneously. Leg strength, core strength, balance, flexibility, and fine motor coordination. It is, in a very real sense, a full-body stress test, disguised as an ordinary movement. Long-term studies following adults over many years have found that individuals who couldn't perform this movement without using their hands for support had a significantly higher risk of death during the years that followed, compared to those who could do it smoothly. That's not a small statistical footnote. That's one of the more sobering findings in aging research, precisely because the test itself looks so unremarkable. If you tried this just now and struggled, please don't panic, and please don't judge yourself too harshly. This is absolutely a trainable skill, just like everything else on this list. You don't have to jump straight into the full movement. Practicing the individual components separately, squatting down and standing back up, kneeling and rising, pushing yourself up from a low-seated position, all of these gradually rebuild the strength, mobility, and coordination your body needs to eventually perform the full movement with confidence. Many people who couldn't do this a year ago can do it comfortably now, simply by practicing the pieces consistently. Now, let's expand beyond what most videos on this topic cover, because there are two more markers I think deserve just as much attention, and they're rarely discussed together with the others, even though they're deeply connected. The sixth marker is functional power, and one of the easiest ways to check it is a simple stair climbing test. Walking speed tells you about steady, sustained movement, but stair climbing measures something different. Your ability to generate quick bursts of muscular power against resistance, using your legs to actually lift your entire body weight upward, step after step. This kind of explosive, repeated strength is what actually saves you in the real world. Catching yourself before a fall, stepping quickly off a curb, recovering your footing when you trip over an uneven sidewalk. Researchers have used stair climbing speed as a quick, practical proxy for both cardiovascular fitness and lower body power, and slower stair climbing times have been associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular events. If you can comfortably climb a flight of stairs, roughly 10 to 12 steps, without stopping to catch your breath or needing to grip the railing tightly, that's a genuinely good sign. If you find yourself needing to pause halfway up or relying heavily on the railing just to keep going, that's useful information, not a reason for alarm, but a nudge toward building more leg power through simple exercises like sit-to-stands from a chair, step-ups, or, again, actual stair climbing done deliberately as exercise a few times a week. The seventh and final marker is something almost nobody connects to physical aging, but should: your sleep quality and your recovery capacity. It's easy to think of sleep as separate from physical fitness, something purely about feeling rested. But sleep is actually when your body does an enormous amount of its repair work, muscle recovery, hormonal regulation, and even the clearing of metabolic waste from your brain. Poor sleep quality in older adults has been linked to slower muscle recovery, reduced balance the following day, and a measurably higher risk of falls. If you consistently wake up still feeling exhausted, or if your sleep is frequently interrupted, it's worth paying attention to, not just for how you feel, but because it directly affects how well your body can maintain and rebuild the variabilities we've just talked about, your strength, your balance, your cardiovascular capacity. The encouraging news here too is that sleep quality is highly responsive to simple, consistent habits, a steady sleep and wake schedule, reducing screen exposure in the hour before bed, and staying physically active during the day, all of which have been shown to meaningfully improve both sleep quality and next day physical performance in older adults. So let's step back and look at the whole picture together. Walking speed, grip strength, cardiopulmonary fitness, balancing. It's the ability to rise from the floor unaided, functional leg power, and sleep-driven recovery. 7 distinct markers, and yet they're all deeply intertwined, each one reinforcing the others. Improve your cardiovascular fitness and your walking. Speed tends to follow. Build your leg strength, and both your stair climbing ability and your sitting rising test tend to improve together. Strengthen your balance, and your confidence in everyday movement increases, which often leads to more activity, which then improves your cardiovascular fitness even further. None of these exist in isolation. They form a single connected system, the same way your heart, lungs, muscles, and brain all had to work together just to let you take a single ordinary step. Here's the message I most want you to walk away with today. Longevity was never primarily about a number sitting on a laboratory printout. It's about whether your body still holds the strength, the speed, the balance, and the coordination. Required to keep living life on your own terms, cooking your own meals, playing on the floor with a grandchild, traveling without fear, getting up, off the floor without a second thought. And the genuinely good news, the news I want you to actually carry with you after watching this, is that every single one of these 7 markers can be improved, starting today, regardless of your current age or your current starting point. This isn't about becoming an athlete. It's about protecting the one thing almost everyone quietly fears losing as they age, the ability to live independently on their own terms for as long as possible. If any part of this gave you a clearer sense of where you actually stand, and more importantly, what to work on next, that's exactly the goal. Try a few of these tests this week. Time how long you can stand on one leg. See how fast you comfortably walk to the end of your street and back. Try lowering yourself to the floor and getting back up without using your hands. Notice how you feel climbing your own stairs, and pay attention to how rested you actually feel when you wake up tomorrow morning. You don't need to be perfect at any of them today. You just need an honest starting point, because from there, every single one of these abilities can be built, strengthened, and protected, one small, consistent habit at a time. And if you're reading this list and realizing you already do most of these things well, that's genuinely worth acknowledging. Don't key that for granted, and don't assume it will simply continue on its own without any ongoing effort. The people who maintain these abilities into their 80s and 90s aren't the ones who got lucky once and stopped thinking about it. They're the ones who kept showing up for these small habits, year after year, long after it stopped feeling urgent. That consistency, more than any single dramatic change, is what actually separates a body that stays capable from one that quietly loses ground. Stay strong, stay capable, and stay in charge of your own independence for many, many years to come.